Welcome to the Got Trauma Podcast with your hosts, Courtney K. and Monica Newland.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Got Trauma Podcast.
Hello,
lovely ladies.
Hello.
How's everyone doing?
700 hellos later, we are here.
We're a very welcoming group. So we are back. As you can see, we have Bea here with us again today. She is the series highlight for the childhood, the Chronicles of Childhood Trauma. We're doing the highlight on Bea for the next couple of episodes. This is episode 3 that we're going to be talking about today. Just a little introduction to Bea. We have met via social media, which was lovely. We have a beautiful little community of people on TikTok, and our paths crossed on TikTok. I'll include your handle in the show notes so that people have that information. They can come and follow you. I highly suggest you check out her page and all the other lovely people who you'll see us interact with. It's been lovely. And Bea, thank you so much for already the previous episodes of sharing your story. It's been definitely a whirlwind. I know you have lots more to share. I do want to introduce you. Bea, you are a survivor, thriver, overcomer, and on your healing journey. You are an author and a writer, and you've had multiple articles released over the years. And so thank you so much for joining us for this series and being raw and real and sharing your journey. So I am going to just circle back a little bit. You have mentioned being in foster care. And if you can maybe take us and shed a little bit of light on what that was like for you growing up, and how old you were, and sort of what that scenario was in foster care for you. We can start there.
So just quick recap. It was a teacher in the school that really kind of was aware or became aware of what was happening in my tiny little world and my little bubble, and reached out and made the necessary calls and took the necessary steps to bring, me to the attention of the ministry. And from there, I was transitioned into foster care rather quickly with my sibling. And just like I had stated before, when you go from a house of violence and abuse and chaos and that threat every day in and day out, to an environment where there's peace and calm and no violence and there's love and kindness, your little brain and your whole body kind of goes into shock, because you're like, what is this? It's foreign to you. Yep. Especially when from being in the womb to being born into that toxic war zone. That was like, you don't believe it to be reality.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
well, you wait for the shoe to drop, right? When's the shoe going to drop?
Oh yes, absolutely. Not very many people get blessed with good foster homes. Mm-hmm. Not very many people get blessed with good group homes. A lot of people out there have been shuttled through the foster care system in such brutal ways that they themselves continued experiencing cycles of abuse and trauma just from being in the system. My sibling and I guess, were like one of the few that got placed in a good place. It had its own issues, but it was still a much healthier environment than where we came from. Right from the get-go, my foster parents had to really learn how to deal with 2 children, and I was classified as high risk because of my violent behavior and my outbursts and the rage. So they had to be taught, I guess, to handle me differently.
Right.
Until I went through that therapy and that training to gain control of that rage and have a better understanding all the emotions that are underneath that umbrella of rage. Right. And to understand that what I went through is not my fault, Like, I had no control over that abuse. It's not like I asked for it, so it's not my fault. So the blessing was a lot of the therapy, the social workers, the lawyers, and the judges that kind of came into my world when I was a child. Because that's the other thing was a court case got started against my biological parents and the ministry to keep my sibling and I together under the same roof, and that took 7 years to deal with that court case itself. And that was being re-traumatized by my father, re-traumatized by his lawyers. Yeah, his name was Doug Christie. He's passed on now. That lawyer, my dad's lawyer, has passed on now, but he defended a lot of very unsavory people in this world that probably should have.
They do though.
Yeah, they probably, all for the bucks, all for the notoriety. I mean, it was in the newspaper several times over.
And so I just have a question about that. So you were fighting, like, the ministry's fighting on your behalf because you're a child. And you said it took 7 years. So during those 7 years, were you living with your sister at that time, or your sibling? Were you living together through those 7 years?
Yes, thank God for that.
That's so good.
See, that's the other thing where oftentimes with the trauma I compartmentalize, and it's not an intentional leave out. It's just I compartmentalize and I focus on just the two in that scenario. But I do have a brother who did not end up in care. My brother was allowed to stay with my biological mother. That was a very big mistake. He continued to be abused by my mother's 2 other husbands that came after my biological father.
Wow.
So he was abused by my biological father and then 2 other men after that.
So your brother is a full brother?
He's my half brother.
Oh, half brother. Okay.
Different father from me and my sister.
Okay.
My sister is my half sister. She also has a different father from my brother and myself.
Oh, okay.
But my biological father was the one who abused all of us.
Oh, okay.
If that makes sense. Yeah, it's a pretty screwed up family tree. We have an idea who my half sister's father is, and that would have been the result of her being raped at 16 by her stepfather.
Jesus
and then my
Christ.
brother came from one of those party scenarios that I had spoken about, where my biological father offered my mother up as
wow.
Yeah. So my brother came from that scenario. So that's why he has a different father. Like, once again, it's her programming. She did as she was told, right? So if my father said you needed to sleep with this person, you slept with that person.
Wow.
I'm no stranger to that type of weirdness, unfortunately. Not in that way, but definitely in the way of, people just doing whatever the fuck in that type of a scenario, passing partners around, that kind of weird shit. So, I mean, I can attest to that. It's fucking weird.
In regards to your parents, I'm just going to say that because of this wasn't you doing this. This was your family, right?
Oh,
Court?
God. Of course. Ew. No.
No, no. I just mean, like, it's the way you say, like, you're familiar with it, and you're familiar with it. Unfortunately, as a result that you had to witness this.
Because I had to witness it. Sorry. No,
parents.
I wasn't. Nobody was passing me around a party. That wasn't a thing.
No,
that was like the adult part of that. I'm just going to stop talking. Carry on.
No. But that's so wild, B. So I get your sister. So your mom had, your sister separately, but then it's so fucking crazy that your brother was then born out of the scenario that was this chaotic and party and, this lifestyle, and that your father was still very much present. And then she became, however that transpired. It's just like such a crazy mess. I can imagine that learning all these things, as you get older is just re-traumatizing and re fucking you up.
I can say that one of those traumatic experiences was those parties were happening, and I went to look for my mom to get help. And I went into the bedroom, and she wasn't alone, and it wasn't Dad.
Wow.
And I just remember standing in the doorway going, like, first off, I know at this point what they're doing because I myself have been put on the chopping block to experience those things. So I'm looking at what's happening going, this isn't
this
Dad.
is happening to her.
And, and I already knew instinctively this isn't right. And then Dad's going to blow up and he's going to be pissed off, but he's actually the one who perpetuated that. And that's how it happened. He's like, go ahead, take my wife. And she was expendable.
Yeah.
You know, if it got him what he wanted, she was expendable. If it got what he wanted, my sister and myself and my brother were expendable.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, because I've done my research now, he was a narcissist to a T.
Yeah. That's so shitty because your mom was very much, as you're telling these stories, it's like, wow, your mom was very much abused, raped, the whole thing. And I commend you for sharing these very real stories because this is actually, like, I'm not saying it's common, but this is happening. It's not just that you were put, like, this is a very big scenario. This is talk about multi-generational, talk about, like this individual, your father, this is just so
it
corrupt.
Happens more than you think.
And and it's, you can see the levels of manipulation and the narcissism and how it affected his entire family. And it is, sadly, I think these things are happening and people aren't talking about it. And
of course they're not, because why would you? You're not supposed to. No, just
I was gonna say real quick too that oftentimes when people have this preconception of what abuse is in their head, they're not realizing that just because my experiences don't mirror theirs or their experiences don't mirror mine and they're not exactly the same to a T, abuse is abuse. Yes. Whether the only thing you've experienced is verbal abuse, it's abuse. It's going to have lifelong effects on you. You're going to have to heal from that. It's going to be a lifetime of healing. Yeah. If it's psychological abuse, neglect, torture, whatever extent of abuse you went through, it all carries the same damages and impact. So just because somebody over here thinks that what they experience is a lot milder than this person over here, don't compare. Don't minimalize what you've experienced. Because abuse and trauma is abuse and trauma.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
I actually get really angry when people diminish what they've experienced because they think I went through something way worse. It's like, oh, don't even fucking go there with me.
Yeah.
Because you experienced abuse and trauma.
Yeah. I hear you there. It makes me uncomfortable when people do that. I don't want you to surmise your situation to, make me feel better. It doesn't make me feel better. I don't.
Yeah.
You have as much right to be here and speak as I do. So it doesn't. That's not even remotely on my radar when it comes to that. I don't want to. I'm not here to preach and be like, oh, I've had it so bad. Like, all of us are in that same boat. That's not what we're here for.
Yeah.
We want you to be heard and to speak. It doesn't matter how small you think it is. If it's affected your life in a way that is detrimental, it's important.
Yeah. I think if you survive the physical assault, for instance, and you have broken bones and cuts and bruises, those are things that heal. You might have scars left over that are visible. You might have, on x-rays, broken bones where you can see where that bone has been broken, but it's healed.
Yeah.
Right? That's the physical body. The other integral part of the body is up here. Everything that is stored up here, consciously or subconsciously, of any form of abuse that you were subjected to, is stuff that you're basically marinating in and rotting in for the rest of your life, which is why it's extremely crucial and extremely important to start the healing journey if you haven't already. Yeah. And if you're in that healing journey, persevere and keep plowing through it.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lifetime. There's no sugarcoating or bullshitting behind that. It's going to be a lifetime of working through this shit.
Yeah.
Did you have an aha moment, B? Like when you were, going through all, because I know we'll get into it in later episodes, relationships and stuff. Was there like a pivotal moment where you were like, holy fuck, if I stay on this road, I'm going to become the people that I am running away from?
Good question. I think there was a few areas in my life where that was very true, and I would say that came later with some of the relationships I found myself in, where I had to recognize the repeat patterns, recognize the repeat scenarios, and the things that were broken inside of me that kept bringing me to these situations or bringing these situations to me, and I would jump head on in, blinders on, only to go, what the fuck, I'm doing exactly what my mother did.
Yeah.
What the fuck, I'm experiencing all of this all over again.
Yeah.
And I think that last relationship that I was in, 1 second.
No, it's so true. It's like crazy is the that's that saying about, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result is, it's crazy. And it's
that
true.
Last relationship. Yeah, very true. That last relationship, I think, when I realized I had made the same mistake, sucking in all that sweet goodness that they were pouring into me, to be gaslit, love bombed, and red flag ignoring, because I was ignoring the red flags, and jumped head on in again, to that relationship ending and blowing up in my face, which was good because he was abusive.
Right.
To me going, it's better that I remain single and work on me and deal with me first.
Right.
And trust myself, because I don't think I've ever trusted myself.
Right.
I don't think I've ever had that opportunity to trust myself, because everything else has been dictated to me, and this is how I'm supposed to be, and this is who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Discovering your autonomy.
Absolutely. And then loving myself.
Yep.
And I wanted to just mention to everybody that this is not the first time that we've done an episode with you. Of course, we're doing a series currently. However, we did do another episode where you went into a little bit more detail about, I think, what you're referring to, which is your relationship and things like that. I will put a link to that episode in our show notes. I was just trying to figure out what number it was that when we recorded that, but for anyone who's,
wasn't it
curious,
our 20th episode?
Oh yes, it was our 20th episode. That's right. Yeah. So if anyone's curious about what B's specifically referring to, I know that you're going to speak more about your situation, but please check out that other episode, because you do go into greater detail about what, like, navigating that whole process, that whole relationship, the aftermath, the physical, the mental, all of that. You go in and you are, it's so well articulated, and you really shed a lot of light on that scenario. So check out that episode. It is episode 20, like Courtney's saying, for a little bit more detail about that. So sorry to just plug that in quick, but
no, that's okay. That's okay. I sit back sometimes and I really do kick myself in the ass. And one of the last conversations I had with my foster mom, I'll only skim over it, but she said some things within the conversation, and I had to rein back and go, but you guys were the best parents you knew how to be, and that any mistake I made in my life was my own internal programming that despite years of therapy, years of dealing with counselors and psychologists and social workers as a child into my adulthood, there was still that hamster wheel spinning inside of me that kept putting me into those situations. And that is the internal dialogue that I'm working to remove from my system, so to speak, so that I'm not going for, I'll settle for this because this is the best I'm going to get.
Yeah.
I'm only worthy of this. This is normal for me. It's not normal. Abuse and chaos and destruction is not normal, and it is not healthy. But
and it might seem like that when as of, you know, if you've grown up in that, because that is your normal. And then, you know, if like, thankfully, you know, you've been able to see this different side and to know that, no, like, things can be better. And your foster family was a healthy, you know, support system for you. Like, so grateful for that.
If I had a love like the two of them had for each other, that would be mind blowing. Just they showed me a whole other world that exists. It's not a fantasy. It's not a fairy tale. It exists.
Yeah.
I mean, he would go and pick flowers for her just randomly and surprise her with flowers. And
Love that.
he would go and he would find a little treat for her that, you know, I'm thinking of you. Happy unbirthday to you.
Oh, that's wow.
But not only did he pour that love into her, he taught that to my sister and I as well.
Yeah. That a man could love you without having to assault you.
Absolutely. And I mean, honestly, that poor man had to work at it, because for years I called him a pervert. So you're
really?
just another pervert.
Of course.
Yeah.
No doubt. That's self-preservation, right?
Yeah. I mean, it took me quite a long time before something shifted in me to actually say I love you to them and mean it. And then I started calling them mom and dad. And that was, I mean, I think for them even, it was just like, what just happened here? Because it was a shock. Because it was like, no, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. No, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. That was very formal, very distant. And I tested the hell out of them. Like, I mean, temper tantrums, breaking things, running away. I really tested their patience and their love for me. And I think, every time I tested, they just upped the ante on pouring the love in.
Oh, wow.
And it was
That's
just
a part of it, though.
What a beautiful lesson for us to know, you know, that we can be good people despite our past, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough, that level of self-love takes a lot of work, you know, to recognize that that's possible. How are those, so those are your parents, like, we, you know, do you refer them now? You do, right? Are they still alive now?
No. So my biological father passed away in Ontario. He passed away in his early 50s of cancer. My biological mother, like I said, she had the breast cancer, but then died of the leukemia in her early 50s.
Yeah. In her early 50s. Okay.
Yeah. My foster father, again, a cancer scenario. He was dealing with cancer. It had progressed too far before the doctors caught on to it.
Right.
He went in for surgery. 3 days later, he passed away. That was, I think, 14 years ago at this point.
Okay.
That's still a hard hit for me. They all are, to be honest with you.
Absolutely.
I suck at grieving. I just suck at grieving.
Oh, me too.
And then my foster mom was basically the last nail that went in for me. That was the same day where I got the call and they had told me she passed away unexpectedly. And my boss was trying to get me home so that I can get prepared to fly. We ended up in the car accident on top of it. So trauma on top of trauma.
Oh, right.
It's like, when I say just the tip of the iceberg, it is so bizarre the shit storms that seem to always land on my plate. It's like the ongoing joke is some of us have a target on our backs or on our foreheads that say, come and fuck with us. We want you to come and fuck with us. So you get it from people you know, and you get it from strangers, and you're sitting back going, but I didn't do anything. I'm just minding my own business.
Yeah.
That's my life.
Yeah.
You're
That's
like,
why
what?
oftentimes I keep to myself.
You're like, what did I do in my last?
No doubt, I believe
in
you.
my last life. What was I in my last life? Must not have been very nice.
Yeah.
I wondered about that myself. Like, what did I do to you?
You're like, what's that guy's name? Oh, Genghis Khan.
Right?
Yeah, but it's true though, right? Now I'll just like throw this out there because I'm very interested in it. But numerology is something that I really love, and I'm a life path 11. And when I started to do some research on life path 11s, that's hard to say, life path 11s. One of the things was like difficult childhood, almost straight across the board. People who have this life path 11, difficult childhoods, and people who pour their guts out to you. Like I'll be in the grocery store. I'm literally that person who just like, someone be like, oh, you like bananas too? Let me tell you about how bananas destroyed my life, and then pour it out there. You know what I mean? Like whatever. Like, but it's I don't know. So
yeah, I get that too.
It's just like a funny, weird thing that when I heard that, and it was like life path 11s tend to have a lot of like obstacles that they get over, but they tend to be like, whatever. There's like information about it. It just is like kind of comforting to know that like, all right, like, it's like a funny thing. It's like, I don't know if it helps in like the understanding or like the accepting of it. It's like, okay,
you're like
buckle up. Okay.
That's I get it.
I don't know how numerology works, but there was a gentleman who reached out to me on TikTok, and he, quote unquote,
and he said that he would send you do a reading on you.
He's actually somebody. He's somebody in our community, so we know him.
Oh, okay, that's
so that's why I trusted it. But he goes, like, can I do numerology for you? And I was like, okay,
cool.
like it goes against my faith, but okay. I'm curious. I would like to know what they are. And then he came back to me and he goes, you're a 7.
Oh, we're 7.
But I don't know the validity of that because I don't know how it works and I don't know about his accuracy.
Okay, right.
Ooh, I could find out. I have a really crazy
I think
life
I know
path
who
number.
it is you're talking about, actually. I think I know who it is you're talking about in our community because we've had the same conversation, I think.
Mm-hmm. I didn't mention names.
Yeah.
There is another good book that came into my world several years back, and it's the Personality Tree.
Yeah.
Ooh,
I've heard of that too. I have, yeah. And I mean, these things are just funny. Like, and even like we're talking about the person in our community. Like, it's just like I think if we're talking about the same person, I do think the same way that they're doing it is the way I would do it. But
you're more than welcome to do it for me.
Interesting to learn about all of these different like I know Court, like you, and sorry, we're kind of spinning off again, but like you're in Reiki, like like all that energy healing, and actually we have an upcoming guest who's going to be joining us who kind of goes into more of those different like understandings of how life comes together for different people, probably like in spirituality. Like I've done like tarot card readings, I've done all this type of stuff, and I think when you're on this healing journey and you're trying to understand things, you're looking for answers, of course. Our logical brain's like, let's find some answers. And then you find these different people who are doing these different modalities of like education and healing and blah, 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 coaching, whatever. And it's just like, it's fun. It's lighthearted. People can really enjoy doing it. And it's just like, for me, it's been like sort of a fun spin on understanding my trauma. Like if that, to kind of like,
absolutely.
Put it lightly. Like it's like, okay.
It's lighthearted.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's lighthearted. It definitely, I find that it puts things into perspective in a very, I don't want to say playful way, but it is like playful way. It is like, it's just, it's a gentle, to me, it's very gentle. I use oracle cards. I'm very much into meditation and intuition and anything that has to do with that. I love astrology. I love all that stuff. I don't necessarily live by it, But I do find that it's very interesting. It's kind of like, it's like a tool belt, right? We always talk about the tool belt. It's just all these little things in the tool belt. And, you know, that's kind of like the snacks that you keep in your tool belt because, you know, you get a little,
you're a little treat sometimes.
A little like, you're like an emotionally hungry person and you're like, I just need a little Oracle snack here just to, just to calm my tits a little bit, right?
Yeah, it's true, right? Yeah, it's true. And I know I know because you know, for anyone who's listening, it's Be a Woman of Faith on TikTok, and I know that is a bit counterproductive to, you know, your religion and how you see things too. So
it's all good because I'm one of these people that everyone's going to walk their path. And I'm not going to be one of those Bible thumpers that is going to slam you over the head with a Bible, Old Testament style, and say, you know, that's not my place. I'm going to walk in my faith and speak about my faith and give everyone the opportunity to figure life out themselves. Right?
And if you need a little fun help along the way, like, it's all good, right? Like, you know.
I'm still laughing. I have to say this really quick because we're talking tool belts. That the first thing that came to mind is, so why is it that in my arsenal and my toolkit, hammers, axes, and knives are the three main things that I collect?
Oh, interesting.
I don't know how many axes I own. I don't know how many hammers I own. I don't know how many knives that I own. But for whatever reason, these are things that I have collected throughout the years, and I can't get rid of them. I need to do some
Googling. Carry on.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Curious what those things signify.
Right?
I'm gonna get us to shift gears a little bit because we did go on a little tangent there.
We do this a lot lately.
So take us back. So you know, so generally speaking, you know, life in foster care, you're with your sister. Yes, there was the 7 years that you fought the legal system to make sure that you stay together, which is like so crazy. Stay together with your sister, which is crazy that would even be up for discussion. But fast forward us a little bit to, you know, because how old were you when you were in foster care?
So when
you entered foster care?
About 6.5.
Okay,
6.5 years old.
You were young.
Yeah. So grade 1, cusp grade 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then fast forward a little bit to like, you know, to like high school and sort of coming into your own. And like when we sort of left off with you finally saying, I love you to your parents and really kind of making that shift. I'm guessing it was because one of the things is because you were starting to develop, you know, in maturity a bit, right? So you're starting to understand things a little bit more.
I think a lot of the integral part of that was the caliber of social workers that came in. 2 of them were only supposed to be in for a set period of time, and then they were asked to move on and transition out. So they cycle through social workers. These 2 basically said, screw you guys, we're in for the long haul.
Oh, wow.
So two of the female social workers became friends of the family and my sibling and I. And they actually had permission to take us on excursions and spend more quality alone time with us safely.
Wow.
Like these were safe people. One of them I'm still able to contact to this day.
That's lovely.
That's awesome.
She's amazing. That therapy really helped rein in and help me understand a lot of the emotions, which I did acknowledge the last 3 or 4 days here. I still struggle with regulating emotions, but understanding which emotion I'm dealing with. And at 49 years of age, with all that therapy and all that stuff, like, I would like to think that I'm further along in that understanding, but I think there's like some stunting there or some blockages there that, just in my opinion, from
expectation of where we should be versus
Absolutely.
where we are.
Absolutely.
Because it's hard, because you're like, why the fuck am I not further along here? I've been doing all the work. What's going on?
Yeah.
What's happening?
Definitely.
I just want to say that you need to look up the spiritual meanings of all three of the things that you talked about, because it will blow your fucking mind. Just going
Do
to
you
say
want to
that right
send
now.
it to me? Because
I will, yeah.
The other thing I really like is fire.
I'll look that up too after.
I'm not a pyromaniac, but fire and water are two things that just...
I love fire too.
Yeah.
Cool.
Like, fire to me cleanses everything, but there's just something about it as well that just...
Fires you
I
up.
don't know. Yeah, it fires me up, but it can calm me at the same time, right?
Yeah.
So depending on what frame of mind I'm in, the fire will either fire me up or it will calm me down. Same with water, it'll either fire me up or it will calm me down.
Yeah.
It's just so weird. And then of course earth, right? Earth is something that I do for grounding.
Yep.
But yeah, if you want to send me the spiritual meaning of those things,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I was a very unruly child. I will say one scenario that was a massive game changer between my foster mom and myself. And it was very hard for her. I'm not too sure the series of events that led up to my big blowout. But I was still young. You could still pick me up, throw me over your shoulder, and haul me down into my room and close the door and leave me there. I went into temper tantrum mode, and it was bad, and I was raging. And my foster mom knew that she had lost control of the situation, and she called for help. And they kind of guided her through what to do with me, which was pick me up, put me in my room, and leave me alone. I'm not allowed to leave the room. Leave me alone. Well, she picked me up, and this little bitch here hit her. I hit her.
Okay.
I hit her full force, as much strength as I could muster from my tiny little body. And it rocked her world, but you know what? She did something she's not supposed to do. She smacked me back. Not hard, but she made her point. And of course, I went into shock, because I was like, that's the first time this woman ever raised her hand at me. Ever. She hauled me down to the room. She put me in there. I destroyed the whole room.
Yeah.
Everything that I could possibly break got broken. She never came to me. She never helped me. She never held me. She never loved me in that moment, being there physically with me. But that was probably the best thing she did, because she was loving me down the hall in the kitchen, bawling her eyes out, doing what she was told to do. And that was the very last temper tantrum I ever had.
That's so hard.
It was hard.
For a parent, that's hard.
Oh, absolutely. I knew it was hard for her. But you know what? All those years of suppressing and raging inside, it came to a head, and it was ugly, and it was scary, and I was violent.
Yeah.
Didn't know what to do, and it's like, well, you can call and have me put in the psych ward, but to what end? They would probably lock me the frick up, right?
Yeah. But you were safe.
Yeah. I was safe. And see, at the time, I didn't know it. I didn't know it. But I mean, by the time I was done, I was in the fetal position. I couldn't talk. I couldn't move. I couldn't anything.
It was like a release, I'm sure.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, it's hard in the sense, like, walking away from you and being like, okay, I gotta let this run its course and hope that it's what's best for you, right?
One of the other lessons that came from that, though, I was not allowed to leave my room until I cleaned it up.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, that's a good one.
And more tough love, yeah.
Oh, it was tough love, and I tell you, I went from raging and crying, and purging whatever torment was coming out of me at that time, to seeing the level of destruction I caused and having to fix that.
Yeah.
I destroyed things that meant something to me.
That is an incredible lesson.
Yeah, and the thing is that you can't take that back when you're putting that onto somebody.
Mm-hmm.
When you exact that level of toxicity onto somebody else, you cannot fix that. You can't fix what you broke. You can't take that back at
Nope.
all. So when you're looking at all those shattered bits around you going, this is something that I can't fix. This is garbage now.
Yeah.
But if you're doing that towards somebody else, you can't fix that shit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You can't clean it up. You can't, that's a permanent break in somebody, and they have to heal from you.
Yeah.
And it literally was the last time I had a temper tantrum. Like, I don't know how long I was in that room for.
Yeah.
But the whole time I was cleaning, I was crying my eyes out.
Yeah.
Because everything that was important to me for stuff I had destroyed.
Yeah.
But at least it was the stuff and not the person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't taking any more of that out on my sister, my foster mom, or my foster dad. It was all coming out towards the stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was your stuff. It was your
reprojected.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. And just like as a parent, that's, like, that really hits home because when you have to teach your kids these lessons, it's tough. And I know, like, I'm not comparing the situations, but like, I guess, it's just, the perspective is appreciated because it's, kids are difficult. Obviously, admittingly, you're saying that you weren't, an easy kid to deal with, and they loved you unconditionally and had to do what they had to do.
You okay?
Right?
Oh.
Oh, fuck me. When I went into foster care, I was handed to them with a warning label.
Mm-hmm.
That goes back to the prejudgment. That goes back to being labeled and being fuck. I came with a warning label. It just hit me that
they accepted
they were giving so
you
much extra because they had to deal with me in their home.
Yeah.
And they made a decision to fight for me to keep me together with my sister under their roof, despite the fact that I came with that fucking warning label that, like, I could destroy their lives, I'm dangerous, I'm this, I'm that, and I was a violent child. But they recognized where it was all coming from. They loved me through it.
Because none of it was your fault.
They taught me differently.
Yep. None of it was ever your fault.
Guys, I think you just witnessed a fucking breakthrough right here, because those are the people that chose to love me. You would think that my parents would love me because I'm their child, I'm their biological child, but these two people come in and I'm just a stranger dropped at their doorstep, and they chose to love me.
Because you were worth it. Because you deserved that. That's what you should have had to begin with, right?
So much.
I bet.
They're angels. Like, literally, they came into your life and changed everything.
Can you imagine how many other children out there are handed over with warning labels because they don't have control over their emotions, they don't have control over their world, so they're acting out, and they're destructive and they're harmful because they don't know any better and they don't know how to regulate, and they're not healed from what they've been through?
Again, too, how many of those kids can talk about the things that happened to them freely without the shame and, again, like you said, the labeling. And I've been a product of labeling, so I know how that feels. You're just, your parents are the alcoholics. You're not going to be that fucking loser kid.
Yeah.
And so it really affects your self-esteem and your ability to learn and to thrive and to, it's not easy, you know, but if you get those really good people in your life that see you beyond all of that, see you at the person that you are, this, you know, I don't want to say broken individual, because you're not broken. This very, you know, just mosaic. I'm going to say mosaic because it's prettier, of a human being, and you just need to be put in a place where the light shines on you, you know? And loved.
Given the chance.
Yeah.
Given the chance. And you took that, B. Like you know,
look at the lessons you learned of it. Like,
as
that's
young
so
as you
profound.
were, you were able to make better choices and change your circumstances and, you know, shift your behaviors. Like, that's incredibly
Powerful.
Powerful, especially at a young age. Like, it's
one thing that has been since really digging deep in my healing journey, and this was something that I've known my whole life. This was something that I think the very first time it ever really registered for me was something that I continued to carry with me, and I even spoke to my foster mom about it before she passed. Any mistake I make in my adulthood is my mistake. If I've misstepped, if I've entered into another abusive relationship, if I've fucked up and did something over here or I did something over there, it is not my parents' fault.
Yeah.
It's not my biological parents' fault. I'm not going to sit back here and say they did this to me. They fucked me up, and that's why I'm this way.
Well,
I'm
to justify your
adult.
behavior, right? Yeah.
I'm an adult, and I need to hold myself accountable for the things that I'm doing to myself that are either destructive or self-sabotage or the repeating of cycles.
Yep.
Yes, I was traumatized. Yes, I was abused. Yes, I found myself in more than one abusive relationship. But am I going to look back and say, my parents did this to me?
Right.
This is the way I am, and I'm this way because of them.
Yeah.
No. I have that opportunity to heal and grow and learn and deprogram myself from that shit and hold myself accountable for the mistakes I've made or those cycles that I've repeated. And I know that it takes a lot for a lot of people to get to that point in their healing journey to go, I have no one else to blame but myself.
Mm-hmm. Yep, been there.
These people did the damage, but it's how I deal with that damage and I work through that damage and I heal from that damage that makes a difference in my world for me.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Oh God, it's so true. You know, it's so true. You can't, you know, you can't hold on to that shit, right? You can't hold on to it and say, oh, it was your fault. I did something really shitty to another person. I hurt another person because I was hurting inside, and that's your fault. No, that's my fucking fault.
Mm-hmm.
Where's my accountability for that? Why did I do that shitty thing?
Yeah.
There were things in me that said that's not a good idea, but there was a part of me that wanted to feel that power to inflict that pain.
Yeah.
That's on me.
Yeah. It's something that I do with my clients, which is like, I call it the forgive and free method, or, you know, exercise or whatever. And it's really about forgiving yourself. It kind of at the surface seems like you're needing to forgive everybody else. And me and Courtney have talked about this quite a bit over, you know, our episodes about how it's not about, you can give people grace and try to, giving them grace is in a certain way saying you sort of forgive. Yeah. However, it's most of the work is about forgiving yourself.
Yep.
And letting that shit go. Like I say it over and over again. You got to let the shit go. I know it sounds like, you know, easier said than done, of course, but holding on to all of that, and you breaking everything in your room when you were a child and going through that whole process, that whole purging, that whole explosive behavior you had, you like let something go that day.
Oh, I did.
And if I can make a suggestion for this episode.
Yes.
You know, in the last episode, we talked a lot about the failing systems. you are a success story, and your adoptive parents are a success story. And I'd like to dedicate this episode to them. I'd like, they were obviously very beautiful, wonderful people, and everybody could learn from them. And they taught you and your sister, and I'm sure everybody else that they came across.
Oh my God. They were an endless supply of love. It didn't matter who you were. If you showed up at the doorstep of the house, you got invited in, you were fed, you were clothed, you had a place to stay.
It's beautiful.
Salt of the earth.
God. Yeah, very much salt of the earth. And these guys, they both came from their own messed up background. But that's a whole lot of the changes they made in their healing process.
They worked on it, and they put in the work, and
they wanted better.
So beautifully. They wanted better. They so beautifully were able to, shift that pain into something that was productive for the rest of their lives, which is one of the most beautiful things. If there's anything, because you said they've moved on, and sorry, I don't want to pull on your emotional heartstrings anymore, but if there's anything that you would like to say to them, like if you could go back and say something else, is there anything that you would want them to hear, to know? Because I'm very much a believer in that they are always, loved ones are always listening.
Oh, absolutely.
You don't have to go anywhere to find them. They're there.
Yeah.
So they're listening today to us have this conversation.
There's one thing that my foster mom always said, and it's funny, I don't like referring to them as foster mom and foster dad because they are my mom and dad, but because I'm dealing with two sets of parents, it just makes it easier to differentiate between the two.
100%.
My foster mom said this to me in my adulthood. She said, the one thing that I strived to not do is break your spirit, because I knew you needed to have your spirit intact the older you got. And she nurtured that. So I mean, there were times where, yes, I got railroaded by people and abused by people, but at the same time, I always got back up and I always fought for what was right. And I stood my ground, and every step of the way, I see her there beside me with her hand on my shoulder or holding my hand or giving me a hug, whatever it might be. And, same with my dad. But if I were to thank them for anything, so thank you for giving me the life that I deserved with them. Thank you for loving me and supporting me and seeing through all of that damage and seeing that potential and fanning those flames and nurturing me and loving me in the ways that they did, for supporting me and encouraging me, defending me, loving me enough to discipline me the right ways without destroying my spirit. And I say discipline the right ways because, I mean, we as children, we have to be disciplined, but there was no fear or threat or anything, right? It's just like, nope, you need time out in your room. Okay. Right? Yeah. But the discipline was there. And one of the big things that I've always said to people, whatever shitstorm came through my life, if I got either one of them on the phone and I was explaining to them what's happening in my world, the first thing they would say is, "What did you do?" And I share all aspects of the story, and they would hold me accountable for where I went wrong in that scenario.
That's the only thing you can control.
Yeah.
Like they taught you that you are in much, and the older I get, the more I realize I'm in much more control than I realize.
Yeah.
And shitty things are going to happen, and I've been through shitty things, but I am, the responsible for how things can continue to play out to some degree, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And you know what? I also thank them for every bit of what they showed me, for the love they had for each other, but the love they had for other people, whether it was other family members or strangers.
Yeah, that's incredible.
It was all the same.
Yeah.
That is the stuff that I get to carry forward in my world. And it definitely changed a lot of the course of my life.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Well,
miss you guys, damn it. I'll pick up the phone and give you a call. I need to talk to you.
yeah.
Oh man,
that is absolutely beautiful. I'm so glad that you were able to share, what this other side, looks like, and that there is, success stories, as we hear a lot about the negative things that happen in foster care and things like that. So I'm so grateful that these angels came into your life and shifted your world, because you're here today, strong, inspired, and able to shed light on these scenarios. And these beautiful lessons for us to take away about how things can be. And then I'm just grateful that you're able to talk a little bit about them. And
no, it was beautiful. Very, very beautiful.
I'm good. I'm
very
good.
touched.
I recognized, like, when I looked back at a couple of things, I recognize right now I'm present because of the emotion. If the emotion isn't there, I know that I'm disconnected.
Yes.
And when I'm recognizing the disconnect, I can look back at and see myself and realize that I'm not actually home the way I need to be home. And sharing this stuff, but I've put myself in a safe position to be removed from being put in those scenarios, if that makes sense.
Yep. Absolutely.
So I was watching a couple of things earlier before we started recording, and I was like, wow, it's my face, it's my eyes, it's my voice, it's my body, but nobody's home.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah,
and
the disassociation.
It's a protection. Protection
100%. Yep.
Yeah.
So if you're getting the emotion, the switch has been flicked.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But we need those emotions. We need that. That's part of that working through stuff.
That's when you know you're making those headways, right?
Yeah, making that progress for sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for another beautiful episode.
Yes, that was
very
amazing.
Raw and real talk. Again, we've dedicated this episode to your beautiful parents. You're the ones that Thank you, everybody. Tune in for the next episode, because we have a few more coming up where we're going to go deeper into B's story and what life looked like after childhood. Thank you again, ladies. This was I feel very very at peace right now, which is kind of
Yeah, I was gonna say euphoric. I'm not sure why.
It's probably because their love shining down on all of us, right?
They're
giving us a little bit of love ourselves, right?
They love to share and they love to share.
Oh, I love it.
This was beautiful. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, B. Thank you,
you guys.
Yeah, I will see you both in the next episode.
Okay,
Absolutely.
love you.
Thanks, everybody.
Nothing but love.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to hit those subscribe and share buttons. We'll see you at the next one.